You have probably stopped for a moment and wondered what really happens before a simple piece of meat reaches your plate. Not just imagined it quickly, but truly tried to understand every step behind it. What you see in a store is only the final result, something clean, organized, and ready. But behind that simplicity, there is a process that is far more complex and continuous. Before any product exists, there is a system that works every day without stopping, without slowing down, and without interruption at any moment. Thousands of animals move through this system at the same time, growing, feeding, and changing in ways that are carefully controlled. This process does not wait, it does not pause, and it does not depend on chance. Everything is planned and repeated again and again. While you are watching this, somewhere the same cycle is already happening, and somewhere else it has already started again. Now imagine stepping inside this system, seeing everything from the beginning, not just the result, but every stage. You are about to follow how thousands of broiler chickens become meat inside a massive process. As we move forward, you will notice something important. This is not only about production, it is about scale and repetition. Everything begins in silence, inside controlled spaces where thousands of eggs are placed in long rows. Each egg looks simple, but inside something is already happening, something slow and constant. The temperature must stay exact at all times. Even a small change can affect everything. Humidity is controlled carefully, and the air moves evenly around every egg. Nothing is random here. Every detail is part of a larger system. Days pass, and nothing seems to change from the outside, but inside everything is developing. A rhythm forms slowly, and a structure begins to grow inside each egg. Then something shifts, almost at the same time across thousands of them. Small cracks begin to appear, movement starts, and sound fills the space. Thousands of chicks begin to hatch within a short period of time. The silence disappears and the system becomes active. These chicks are not left alone. The process continues immediately. They are sorted quickly and moved to the next stage without delay. There is no waiting. Everything follows a continuous flow. Each movement is planned and repeated again and again. They are transported into large growing areas where the next phase begins. When you enter this space, the scale becomes clear. Not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands in one place. They move together, eat together, and grow together. The environment is controlled at all times to keep everything stable. Temperature stays constant, and lighting is carefully managed. Air flows through the space continuously to maintain balance. This is not a natural environment, it is a controlled system. Everything here is designed for efficiency and growth. Feeding is one of the most important parts of this process. Large storage systems hold tons of feed prepared in advance. Each mixture is calculated to support fast and steady growth. Automated systems distribute feed across the entire area. Thousands eat at the same time, creating a constant sound. This sound repeats again and again throughout the day. At this point, something important begins to happen. Feed turns into growth and energy turns into mass. This process happens continuously without interruption. Day after day, the same pattern continues. As time passes, the changes become more visible. The size of each chicken increases steadily. The weight grows quickly, changing the entire space. Everything is happening at the same time, creating scale. Time feels different here, faster than expected. Growth that would take months happens in weeks. This is not random, it is controlled and planned. Every stage follows a precise system. Nothing is delayed and nothing is wasted. At a certain point, growth reaches its target. The system prepares to move forward again. Everything shifts into the next phase of the process. Movement increases and the environment changes. Transport begins as trucks arrive and systems activate. Everything is organized quickly and efficiently. Thousands are moved at the same time. The flow continues without slowing down. When they arrive at the next location, everything changes. The sound is louder and the pace is faster. Machines dominate the environment. Conveyor systems move continuously without stopping. Each stage is repeated with precision. Thousands enter and thousands leave each day. Everything follows the same pattern. Every movement is controlled and consistent. The process continues step by step. Each unit passes through the same stages. Nothing changes, everything repeats. The goal is transformation in scale. What was once whole is now separated. Different parts are created and organized. Everything is prepared quickly. In minutes, everything changes form. The final stage is packaging. Products are sealed, labeled, and prepared. Everything is standardized. From here they move into distribution. They travel to different places. Stores, restaurants, and homes. The system continues in another form. What you see is only the end. Behind it, the process continues. Every day without pause. Thousands move through the system. Everything repeats again, and again, and again. Now that you have seen it, everything feels different. What once seemed simple now has depth. What once seemed normal now has scale. And the system continues, even now. As the process continues, something becomes clear. This is not just about speed, it is about consistency. Every day follows the same pattern, the same sequence, the same rhythm that never changes. Nothing is rushed, but nothing is delayed. Everything moves at the exact pace it was designed to follow. Thousands of chickens continue growing in the same space. Eating, moving, resting, repeating the same cycle again and again. The system depends on this repetition. Without repetition, there is no scale. Without scale, there is no production. And without production, the system stops. But here, nothing stops. Everything continues forward. Every hour, every day, every cycle. As you observe longer, the environment feels almost mechanical. Not because it lacks life, but because everything is controlled. Every variable is adjusted. Every condition is maintained. Everything is designed to produce the same result. Over and over again. This repetition is not accidental. It is necessary. It is what allows thousands to move together, to grow together, to reach the same point at the same time. And when that moment arrives, everything changes again. The system prepares for movement. Not slow movement, not random movement, but organized, controlled, continuous movement. Teams enter the space. Processes activate. Everything shifts into the next phase. The sound changes. The rhythm changes. The purpose changes. But the system remains the same. Always moving forward. Always continuing. Transport becomes the next step. Large vehicles arrive and wait. Everything is ready before it begins. Nothing is improvised. Nothing is uncertain. Everything follows a plan. Thousands are moved together. Carefully, quickly, consistently. The flow continues. It does not stop between stages. It does not slow down between locations. It moves forward without interruption. And when they arrive at the next environment, everything intensifies. The scale becomes more visible. The movement becomes faster. The sound becomes louder. Machines take control of the process. Systems replace manual action. Everything becomes more precise, more structured, more continuous. Conveyor lines move without stopping, carrying everything forward, step by step, stage by stage. Each unit follows the same path. Each movement is repeated. Each result is expected. Nothing changes. Everything stays consistent. And this is what allows the system to work. Consistency creates efficiency. Efficiency creates scale. And scale defines everything here. The process does not rely on variation. It relies on repetition. The same action repeated thousands of times. The same sequence repeated every day. The same outcome produced again and again. And as this continues, transformation happens. Not suddenly, not randomly, but steadily, predictably, controlled. What once was part of a growing system now becomes part of a production system. The purpose shifts. The structure remains. Everything moves forward, always forward. Each stage leads to the next. Each movement leads to another. There is no pause, no break, no reset. The system flows continuously. And as it flows, the final form begins to appear. Not all at once, but step by step, part by part. Everything is separated, organized, prepared. Each section has a destination. Each piece has a purpose. Everything is arranged with precision. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. Everything is part of the system. As the process nears completion, the rhythm does not slow down. It remains constant, because even at the end, the system is still running, still moving, still producing. Packaging becomes the next step. Products are sealed, labeled, standardized, prepared for movement once again. Everything is aligned. Everything is uniform. Everything is ready. From here, the system continues beyond what you can see. Distribution begins. Movement expands. Products travel to different places, different cities, different stores, different homes. The system extends beyond the factory, beyond the farm, into everyday life. And yet behind all of this, the original process continues, unchanged, unstopped. repeating again, and again, and again. While one cycle finishes, another has already started. New eggs, new growth, new movement. The system never resets. It only continues. And the more you think about it, the more you realize something. This is not a single process. It is a continuous loop, a cycle that never ends, a system that never stops. Thousands enter, thousands leave, and the system remains the same, stable, consistent, uninterrupted. And now that you have seen more of it, something changes. Not in the system, but in how you see it. What once seemed simple now feels structured. What once seemed small now feels massive. What once seemed ordinary now reveals complexity. And still, even now, the system continues, without pause, without hesitation, without end. As the system continues, something deeper becomes visible. Not just movement, not just production, but a pattern. A pattern that repeats without change. A pattern that defines everything. You begin to notice that nothing here is temporary. Everything is part of something ongoing. Something that does not begin and does not end. Only continues. Every stage you have seen connects to the next. Every step leads forward. Nothing exists alone. Everything is part of a sequence. And that sequence never breaks. The more you watch, the more predictable it becomes. And yet, at the same time, it feels almost overwhelming because of the scale, because of the repetition, because of the consistency. Thousands moving together, thousands growing together, thousands becoming part of the same outcome, over and over again. And even when one cycle finishes, it does not feel like an end. It feels like a transition, because another cycle is already in motion, already progressing, already following the same path. You begin to realize that the system does not wait. It does not slow down for observation. It does not change because it is being watched. It continues exactly the same, with or without attention, with or without interruption. Always forward, always repeating. And that repetition is what makes it work. Without repetition, nothing would align. Without alignment, nothing would scale. Without scale, nothing would reach this level. Everything depends on everything else. Each part depends on the next. Each stage depends on the previous one. And because of that, the system remains stable. Not static, but stable. Constant movement, constant flow, but always controlled, always structured, always predictable. As you reach this point, something changes in perception. You are no longer just observing. You are understanding. Understanding how each detail connects. Understanding how each step matters. Understanding how everything is designed to continue. And once you understand that, it becomes difficult to see it the same way again. What once felt simple now feels layered. What once felt distant now feels structured. What once felt ordinary now feels precise. And even now, as this moment ends, the system continues. Somewhere, new cycles are starting. New movement is beginning. New sequences are forming. Nothing has stopped. Nothing has paused. Nothing has ended. It only continues. And that is what defines it. Not the beginning, not the end. But the continuity, the constant repetition, the endless cycle, thousands entering, thousands leaving, and everything in between happening again, and again, and again, even now.